Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is going to be available for purchase very soon. That game is called Imaginarium, and it's from Bombix Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to have a link down in the description section of the video that will take you, or possibly more than one link, that will take you to some places where you can find out some more information and possibly pre-order or purchase outright the game, depending on when you see this. Now, Imaginarium is a competitive Euro-style game. You and the other players are inventors in sort of a steampunk type universe. You're inventors or machinists, or you want to be the grand machinist. In order to do so, you need to compete against the other players and try to make the best machines possible that can produce some rare elements, and you gather your basic resources like wood and charcoalium and things like that. Use them in order to make and repair machines, and then use those to get your sort of production going and to get the gears grinding and so on. You're going to need to get assistance. You're going to try to meet these benchmarks and have completed projects before the other players do, so on and so forth. Let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played. This is an early version of the game, but it's very, very, very close to what the final version will be. I'm not even sure there's that many significant differences, but then in any event, we are going to come back and we will discuss it further. Imaginarium is a competitive game for 2 to 5 players. Each player takes control of a handyman, a steampunk inventor using the wondrous bric-a-brac factory to invent and produce fantastical machines in order to gain the prestigious title of Great Machinist. You'll need to gather the right resources and gain the best assistants to help you along, and you need to do it faster than the other players. When one player hits 20 victory points, their final points will be counted, and whoever has the most is the winner. Start the setup by laying out the game board, which is called the bric-a-brac. In the center of that board, you'll place a storage box filled with the 3 types of resource cubes of the game: wood, copper, and crystal, and charcoalium tokens, which are the game's currency, essentially. There are ×5 tokens nearby if you ever run out of the individual bits. Each player will choose a random folding screen, which tells you which handyman you're playing as, and will serve to hide your resources and remind you of basic rules. Every player also gets a workshop board at random. This is because each board is different. Every player will get a different amount of starting tokens, different starting production machines, and a different starting spot on the initiative track. Take the designated tokens and place them behind your screen, along with a set of project completion tokens in your handyman's color. Take the designated machine cards and place them under the slots of your workshop. And finally, take the appropriate miniature for your handyman and place it on the designated spot of the initiative track. Along the bottom of the board, you'll make a lineup of machine cards. Shuffle the deck and lay out the 7 cards on the conveyor belt, organizing them so that the low-level cards are furthest to the right and making sure no attack cards are in the initial lineup. At the top left of the board, you'll shuffle up the project tokens and lay out 6 to 9 of them face up, depending on the number of players. And in the top right of the board, you'll shuffle the assistant deck and lay out 3 face up. Next to the board, place the stacks of victory point tokens. Each round of the game is split up into 3 phases. The first phase is planning. In the order of the initiative track, each player will either place their miniature on one of the available machine cards, indicating that they'd like to purchase that machine and indeed have the charcoalium to pay for it, or place it on one of the charcoal extraction spaces, which will net you 1, 2, or 3 charcoalium in the next phase. Pay close attention to the arrows connecting each player space. Those arrows indicate the turn order in the next phase. Players willing to buy the most expensive machine cards closest to the deck will be going first, while players taking charcoalium will be going last. This is a good time to talk about the machine cards. Each machine is leveled from 1 to 3, which will dictate its cost and effectiveness. Every machine begins broken, and you'll need to spend resources to repair it first, which is depicted on the side of the card. But when repaired, they will consistently give you a special effect each round depending on its type. Blue production cards will give you tokens, purple transformation cards will transform tokens, red attack cards will steal resources or disable machines from opponents, and they're only used when they're repaired. Green defense cards will stop attacks, and special machines that restore other machines or give you points. Machines will also tell you which other machines they can combine with. The next phase is implementation. This phase occurs in order of the handyman on the bric-a-brac. On your turn, you follow several steps in order. First, decide if you're using your repaired machine cards. If any of your machines are functioning, you can use their effects in any order that you like, but note that some machines can only be used the first time they're repaired, like attack cards, and some are always on, like defense machines, and you don't really need to do anything with them. Next, you resolve your choice from the last phase. If you place on the Charcoalium track, take that amount of Charcoalium from the supply. If you reserved a machine, you must immediately pay for it with Charcoalium. The cost is the card's level plus the number indicated on the space your miniature occupies. Beware, because if you miscalculated and cannot afford the card that you chose, you must make up the difference in other resources at a cost of 2 for each missing Charcoalium. If you still can't come up with the right amount, discard all of your resources and discard the machine as well. You failed so badly that you can't even use the machine at all. Properly acquired machines are placed horizontally near your workshop to indicate they are broken and cannot be used yet. You can have as many broken machines as you like, but you only have 4 slots in your workshop for repaired machines. When you've resolved either taking a machine or Charcoalium, you move on to carrying out 2 actions. Your player board has a dial with 2 indicators that can be rotated together. You will move the dial so that the 2 actions you want to utilize are being pointed at. In this way, actions must always be paired up in a certain way. You may never choose the exact same pair of actions twice in a row. You'll have to move back or forth on the dial before you can come back to that pair. Once chosen, you can resolve each of the 2 actions in any order, one after another. One of the actions is to repair, which is simply choosing one machine, spending the indicated resources, and placing it vertically in your workshop. Its effect happens right away. Another action on your board is dismantling. You can scrap a machine for resources or possibly points. If you scrap a broken machine, take resources equal to its level, but they must match the resource types necessary to repair the machine. If you scrap a repaired machine, you may either take resources equal to double its repair cost or victory point tokens equal to its level. The special cards, which have the highest cost, can never be dismantled. Another action you can take is reorganizing. You can either combine or separate machine cards, so long as you follow the indicator in the bottom right of the cards, which tells you what cards can go together. Combined production machines and/or transformation machines will increase their yield significantly when combined. But this is also a great way to free up space in the workshop, as all of the machine's abilities will still apply. Attack and special machines can never combine. By taking this one action, you get 3 additional buy or sell actions. You can use Charcoalium to buy resources or sell resources to get Charcoalium, or you can buy victory points with Charcoalium. The extraction action simply nets you 3 Charcoalium. And finally, for the actions on the board, you can recruit an assistant. You can get 1 per turn and can only have 3 at a time. Choose one from the lineup, pay the price in Charcoalium, and place it in one of your assistant slots. The lineup does not replenish until the next round. Assistants give you a permanent ability for your workshop. It could net you extra resources or victory points during certain actions, or even allow you to more freely choose which actions you can take in the workshop. Once both player board actions are resolved, you can check to see if you completed any projects. Projects are the most reliable way to get victory points. Projects will require you to either have a certain number of particular machines, specific sets of machines, specific resource production per turn, a certain number of assistants or Charcoalium, etc. If you do meet the requirements, place one of your tokens on the project, and if you're the first person to do it, you're going to collect the amount of points that are shown. If you're not the first, you'll take 1 less token than is depicted. Your turn will then end, and the next player in the Bric-a-Brac initiative will take their entire turn like you just did, from resolving your repaired machines down to checking on completed projects. When each player has done this for the round, reset the board by discarding the furthest right machine on the conveyor, moving the others to the right to fill in gaps, and then putting out new cards on the left. Then refill the assistant spaces if necessary and begin a new round. If any player gets to 20 or more points, finish out the current round, then play stops and each player will reveal their remaining resources behind their screen. Players will get 2 points for each resource they have the most of, including Charcoalium, with tied players each getting 2 points. Add those points to the accumulated point tokens, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. That is Imaginarium. Well, like I said, the version of the game that I have for this preview is I think it's going to be pretty much identical to what you get in the final version. Maybe a couple of things might be tweaks, but as you can tell from just that, it is going to have very high-quality components, high-quality artwork, things like that. But, of course, the other interesting thing right off the bat is the theme. Now, I think steampunk is, as a theme has been around, but this is very narrowly focused on you as these sort of wacky inventors with very strange names and appearances. There's an incredibly unique art style for all of the, not for, well, for everything, but specifically for the portraits of the machinists and also for the handyman. The handyman and women is what they're called, actually. And you want to be the grand machinist by the end of it. But for them and for the assistants, especially, there's just this very unique looking artwork. Even the machines have their own type of flavor to them. So it isn't like generic steampunk, and I'm not even sure that's necessarily the right word, by the way. That's just the word that pops into my mind. But it has its own style, regardless of how you want to, what terminology you want to use. So you have that unique theme. Then you go into the gameplay, and very loosely I would call this Euro style, but really this is production, engine building, literally, because you're making these machines that using what limited resources you have at the beginning of the game, and then using them to make machines and repair machines to get your sort of engine going with getting more resources and then using them to buy more things. And ultimately what you want to do is have a very specific arrangement of machines, because the way you're going to get the most points is by getting those projects completed, hopefully before the other players do. You can get points no matter what, but they're going to be less points unless you're the first person to do it. So, and since you are playing to a threshold of points as opposed to like a set number of rounds, that combined with trying to get the projects first has sort of a race to the finish type feel to it. So you do feel pressure from round to round to get things going. And so you have to really carefully consider, how much am I going to play the long game here by setting up my machines, and how much am I just going to go for points as desperately quickly as possible, but then perhaps peter out and stall out, whereas the other players who have been building up over time have better luck down the road. There's the whole aspect as well that you get points from having a lot of resources too. It's another thing to consider. There are a ton of different machines of different levels. The fact that you can combine them together is a very unique thematic and gameplay element. You also have the track of how you choose initiative, which is, there's been things like similar to that in other games. Obviously, you take certain actions are going to be slower than others, but the fact that it has a visual representation, that you have to go all the way out to the factory to start shoveling coal for yourself, essentially charcoalium, excuse me. That's going to take longer, and therefore you're going to go later than players who are just like, all right, I'm ready, let's get that machine, I want to build that thing as quickly as possible. So, and then, of course, you have the assistants, all with their unique artwork, who can give you very powerful abilities. Not necessary, but can really, really help you. Some of their abilities are just crazy powerful. So, but there was a thing about being penalized if you aren't able to build a machine that you reserve. So, not a lot of forgiveness in the game either if you make any glaring errors. So all these things together, I should mention that even though it sounds like it's very complex and, it is highly strategic, but I didn't find it overwhelmingly complex either. I think that people who are relatively new to this style of game could still jump into it. They're not going to be overwhelmed. It's not too hard to set up. It's very convenient with how you have the resources in a little box centrally located. Most games don't even bother to do that. You just have to make piles somewhere. And so it's not too hard to set up, it's not too hard to teach, it's not too long to teach either. And because you are sort of, I hate to use the word, but racing to that end point to get as many points as possible for the other players to, it moves at a very good clip as well. So, if any of that sounds like it appeals to you, if you like the unique theme, the gameplay elements, if you like this type of game but we're looking for something a little bit fresher than that, look, you don't have to take my word for any of this, and you shouldn't. You should go and find out more information with the links I'm going to provide in the description section underneath this video. You can go there, find out more information, and possibly, depending on when you see this, either pre-order or outright purchase the game, and hopefully you will at least consider that. That is Imaginarium from Bombix Games. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.